Okay, hello, here we are again, another Friday afternoon. And again, we're not going to go into episodes because we can't remember what episode we're on, so we're just going to carry on.
Episode 25 million.
Yeah, whatever episode it is. And today we're joined by Jo Town.
Hi Jo, nice to meet you.
And we're today we're going to talk a little bit about breeding, ethical breeding, litters, puppies, different breeds, etc. So hopefully we can have an interesting conversation around that. So first things I'm going to ask for, Jo, for you is, obviously you're a breeder, so you breed dogs. What breeds, I'm going to say what species then? What is that?
That's questionable.
How bad is that? What kind of dogs do you breed?
My breed.
Normally me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I breed miniature poodles.
Miniature poodles, cool. And what made you go down the miniature poodle route? Is it something that you've always done or always had, or?
I had a poodle as a child.
Okay.
And then we lost him. I was around about 9-10 years old and we lost him. And my dad was very heavily into gun dogs and gun dog training and things like that. So we never replaced the poodle at home, and we had Labradors, and
yeah,
the passion for poodles was always there.
Okay.
So when I left home, and as your parents say, you do whatever you want when you leave home.
Yeah.
You took it to the limit.
Yes, I got a poodle. He wasn't from a breeder.
Okay.
Got him under circumstance. He was a rehome as a puppy. He was 8 weeks old, and it was a case of the breeder didn't want him back. So he needed to go to somewhere as soon as possible, and we took him in, and the poodle spark was reignited.
Yeah. Perfect. And then so what made you think about breeding? Was it from him you started breeding, or did you have another one?
No, we found out not long after getting him that his mum had gone in and had a double hip replacement.
Right, okay.
So I'd gotten him on the pretenses that I wanted him to be my agility dog. He was going to be my first proper competition agility dog.
Okay, yeah.
Luckily we were able to do that, and he's gotten up to grade 6, and
okay, cool.
But it was something that sparked me into thinking the heartbreak that it caused me, that I thought that I had a dog that was unhealthy.
Yeah.
It caused a massive heartache. A lot of questions were answered, a lot of money was spent to make sure that this dog was going to be able to live a happy and pain-free life.
Yeah, cool, perfect.
So that sparked that I wanted to make sure that in the future less and less people had to go through that heartache that I had to go through in the early days with Elmo.
And so did you breed it? Was it a stud dog that you had, or a bitch?
So I have a bitch at the moment. I have 2 bitches at the moment. So one of them is the mum to the puppies that I've had.
Okay.
And she was selected on the basis that we would look in the future at potentially breeding and starting our own poodle line.
Perfect. So how much, like from a research point of view, into getting the bitches that you've now got? So what it was, so was that a long time? Was it something that was sort of brewing up, or did you just go, right, this is the line I'm looking for, or did you research loads of different lines to find the ones that you?
Yeah. So I had growing up, I had horses, I had Welsh cobs, and I was very into the pedigrees of Welsh cobs. So I feel that's really helped in crossing over onto the dogs and learning.
How many of us come from the horse world?
Yes.
I don't.
Do you not?
No.
Time, yeah. You might go the other way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I had the spark there for looking at pedigrees and researching pedigrees and the importance of lines and how different lines complemented each other and how certain lines were doing well. And I picked a breeder who was predominantly breeding for health. Dogs were consistently healthy.
Because poodles do have a lot of genetic issues, don't they? Or can have a lot of genetic.
They can, yes, yeah. So it's mainly with the poodles, it's mainly their eyes, their hips. There's epilepsy in poodles as well, Willebrand's poodles, Addison's disease. That's more so the standard poodles as opposed to the miniatures.
Yeah.
So now with your miniatures, we've crept in, we've got OC, which is like the dwarfism gene. So that's now something that's tested.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's worth. Yeah, that's interesting. Something I wouldn't have never even gave that a thought, to be honest. From a
No.
I suppose there's from a miniature poodle point of view, there has to be something in there to make them miniature to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Smaller breeds.
Do you not just put them in a crate then and just make the crate small?
like a goldfish.
You'd kind of like that. That's sorry. Like, oh my god. No, I am here. I just are you all there? Sorry. Yeah, like that's how they like say the teacup breeds are bred, don't they? They just put the puppies into something small, and then I am joking, everybody. Just for the record there.
That's cool. So yeah, so you spend loads of time obviously researching and making sure that the one that you've got. So now you're breeding obviously your own lines. Is it your own lines you're breeding now? You've got your own sort of affects.
So I have my own. We're first generation still.
Perfect.
Starting second generation year after next.
Cool. Excellent. So from a breeder's point of view, when you're breeding now, are you specifically breeding to continue the good line that you've got and obviously the health and whatever, or are you breeding, like, let's say from a monetary point of view to make money, or is it both, or is it how do you work that from a breeder's point of view?
Any good breeder will tell you they make no money.
Yeah.
No money. With the time that you put in, the funds that you spend out during, if you break even at the end, you do a good. So my lines are, I want my pup, I want a pup back, and I want to know where that pup's from, and the joy that I get out of molding my own little puppy, and from start to finish, and knowing from the moment they take their first breath to the moment they've taken their last breath, the journey that they've been on, and as I said, predominantly that I have a healthy dog at the end of it.
Yeah. And without being personal, Joe, your personal situation, do you work? Do you have another living? Do you have? So because I was just really interested in what you said there about breeders don't make money. I'm sure there are people that are as ethical and do good, that do make money from breeding lions, don't they? And chosen to have that as a business, I guess.
So I think with those, the volume of dogs that they have would be a lot more.
Exactly that. Most
of my pets.
And it's, I know before we came on, we kind of touched on this, but it's kind of one of those delicate subjects, isn't it? Like it's almost carrying a stigma. It's almost like, oh, you're a dog breeder, you're one of those, and do you feel like that, Joe?
I did.
Right. I'm glad you're over it.
I did at first, but I'm so proud now of the pups that I've produced and the feedback that I have from the owners and the homes that they're in now, that I'm super proud breeder now of what I put out there. I am
perfect.
But
So,
I didn't have that.
So so when you obviously when you have the litter of puppies and you got the prospective new owners and all the bits and pieces, do you do as much research on the owner as as they would do on you, so to speak? So do you make sure that you ask them all the right questions more?
So I have been very lucky in my first litter that I had. I didn't know so many people that had the pups, but I did get to know them from when the pups were born, and we grew a relationship that way. And I'm still very much I speak to these people more than I speak to my family. I just I now class these people as my family as well at the same time. Yes, I did. And then second time around, I was very lucky, and every single pup went to somebody I knew.
Right.
Another one went to live with someone who's had one of my previous pups, which is
because I suppose miniature poodles I suppose they're quite specific, really. So you'd only be looking for a miniature poodle if you're looking for a miniature poodle.
They're quite
you know what I mean? Because some people just look, they're looking for a puppy in some, a border collie. You could settle for a collie cross, a Labrador. You could settle for a Labrador cross. Whereas a miniature poodle, to me, seems to be more of a, if you're looking for one, that's what you're looking for. So I would say so. If that sounds a bit weird, but that's what I would look at. So when you're looking for different breeds, sometimes you get, and if we sort of go down the sort of cross breed, as it was, I know loads of people, especially in agility, cross breeds are massive, because a lot of agility dogs, a lot of them come from sort of rescue homes as well. So they're all sort of, so where do you sort of look from a cross breed point of view? Is it something that you accept, or is it something you go, well, I would never do that, or I wouldn't have any, you know, that sort of thing?
I know some amazing crossbreed dogs, and I know some amazing owners of crossbreed dogs, and it's undeniable that there is a market out there for crossbreed dogs. People love them. There is a lot of people I've met who have met my poodles, and I've never seen a full poodle. And they've seen numerous cockapoos, numerous labradoodles, but they've never seen a full poodle. And I have some that have never seen a full poodle who isn't in a poodle haircut either.
Okay,
Their poodles are crossbreeds.
So it's quite interesting that Stuart's touched on this. You might not know this, Jo, but I am the proud owner of 2 Jack Russell poodles, crosses. One, I was never selected to be an agility dog. It was my first dog with the kids. It was a Jack Russell poodle. It was a 2nd generation poodle. Making it a Jacob, I don't know what it makes anyway, but it was 2nd generation. So the mum was a Jack poodle and the dad was a poodle. I was very successful with him in agility, and I loved the tenacity of the 2 breeds coming together. And as I developed as a person, I began to look at different crossbreeds. And, you know, when I was looking for Kippy, I went out looking for a Jack Russell poodle cross, and of course everybody was breeding the Cocker Spaniel cross poodles, and I struggled, but I very, very much looked for the mum and dad. When I was looking for my crossbreed, I was looking at the mum and dad, I was looking at the poodle, and I began to really educate myself on poodles, and some of them had, like, I guess you can know whether it's one of your family pets or you know, one of your litter. Some of them have some real traits, don't they? So certain poodle generations will bark a lot, certain generations have that real upright boxy move, don't they? What does your litter have that you love?
Mine they do have the volume.
Do they?
Well, I say this, Mum has volume. She's
right.
Very, very shouty. If we're running a course, she is telling me I'm not fast enough the whole time.
They have an opinion, don't they?
They very much have an opinion. She's a diva. My girls are divas. But I like that in them. I do like that. I would, because you do have, on the same hand, you have some poodles that are very nervous and very reserved.
Right.
Yes, mine aren't. Mine are very
right.
They're very, very tenacious. They're very biddable as well. I'm very forgiving because I'm not.
I actually, Stuart may differ here, being a collie handler. You know, I'm a small dog handler now. Stuart's obviously a large dog handler, but I actually say, and I have no scientific evidence of this whatsoever, but I believe that poodles are the most intelligent breed in this country.
Well, I have a collie as well. So
right. And would you say that your poodle is more intelligent? So collies are very intelligent, they're very highly driven, but we very much tune in to chase and drive and all the rest of it. Whereas poodles, I think they are, I read a story once that a poodle actually camped by a drain pipe for about 3 weeks so that it turned itself into the environment and got a rat. And I could actually imagine one of my poodles kind of do it, whether 3 weeks was the right story, it probably starved itself to death, but yeah, you know, but it was that clever. And I was like, is that story true? I don't know. But, you know, that they are very clever, aren't they?
Well, I swear that my eldest poodle, my male poodle, has saved me on courses so many times where if I've gone to send him over another jump and he's gone, that's not the numerical order, this is the next number. And the amount of people that have said to me, your dog can read numbers. Really sending him the other way, and he's gone, no, it's this way. So I truly believe my poodles are the way I describe them is, my collie is very academically clever. I can teach her anything. She has zero common sense. My poodles' common sense is up there. They are so switched on. They're so ahead of the game. They do go out for a lot of personal gain. And I think that's very clever.
Yeah, they do have that bit of attitude, and like you say, they're undivided, like they have a game plan, don't they?
Absolutely, 100%. Absolutely.
And it's way ahead of any trainers.
Yes.
Yeah. Usually, yeah. But then most dogs are ahead of most trainers nowadays, to be honest. We're always on the back foot trying to keep up with our dog, trying to learn more to get them on track, really. But
yeah, I do it when I'm using my clicker. I like look at my dog, I'm like, throw the clicker away. Dog's already ready for it.
Yeah, that's it. Dog already knows what's going on. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly that.
Cool. So so plans for the future. Obviously, you've mentioned that you're thinking about obviously another litter. If we go on how many, so from a bitch's point of view, how many litters, let's say in a lifetime, or how would you how many litters would you think about from a bitch's point of view in a lifetime? Would it be something that you do every year, or is it something you do every couple of years, or
Yeah, I think that very much depends on the bitch and how they recover from the litter. You will have some who they never really recover from having pups. I've seen people that have said, I wish I'd never bred her, she's never been the same.
okay.
Physically, mentally, they don't recover. So
Yeah.
to breed those again, personally, I think would be completely unethical. Completely. My girl, I'm very lucky. I don't know if it's a case of she was so super fit before she had her pups, but she bounced back. First time she bounced back when the pups were going, with people were coming to see the pups at like 6-7 weeks old. I was having to say to people, I swear she is the mum, I promise, because she just looked phenomenal, and she just straight back to how she was. She was competing again months later, and this second time round as well, she's done exactly the same. I mean, she was 17 weeks pup, 17 weeks. Her fitness has bounced back. She did a little steeplechase show at the weekend and she won a class. And so physically and mentally, she has recovered beautifully. I had no plans to breed from her again. I always said I'd have 2 and we'd spay her, but I'm not ruling a 3rd one out at the moment, just purely because of how physically fit she is and how she has recovered. Had she not have, though, absolutely not. I would say 2, 3 at most is what.
And do you often, like, I mean, I know you've only had the 2, but would you look at the litter and kind of how would you pick your next breeding bitch from perhaps that line of?
So I kept one back last year. I kept a little girl back last year.
And how did you choose her?
I
like that.
I'm going, which one's going to cuddle me the best?
I originally picked her because Mum loved it the most, and I was like, oh, I can't separate them. So heart took over head then.
Yeah,
but she did grow to be she's a phenomenal little dog, and I was very lucky in the sense that I had a dog trainer friend who came out and she had a little look at them to make sure I wasn't looking through rose tinted spectacles, and that really helped.
Cool.
And was it the look? Was it kind of trying to keep the look? Because obviously you have breed standards the same as any breed. So was it the look, or was it the temperament, or was it a combination of both?
So in terms of like the breed standards and things, I have the lines I want to develop are, I want my dogs to be fit for purpose and sporting poodles, as opposed to dogs that will trot around the show ring. So I wanted a dog that overall looked athletic, looked like she could go on to do what I wanted to do with her, which is agility. And she is literally everything I want conformation wise. Looks wise, she's the prettiest little thing. She is very pretty. It does help. She's a beautiful colour. So she's a really deep, rich apricot.
Right.
I don't breed for colour, but we knew we were going to get apricots. Mum's apricot, Dad's apricot. We knew we were going to get apricots.
Yeah.
She is a beautiful shade of apricot as well. So overall.
And was it a mimic book? Was it the same stud dog?
I done 2 litters and we've used the same stud dog twice.
Yes.
I was so impressed with the first litter, and it was a case of better the devil you know, and he is fabulous. And I have kept a little boy from the second litter as well. So we have Bambi's full brother.
Cool.
Wow.
So when you touched a little bit on obviously breed standards, and you said that you breeding for athleticism, for working, for that sort of stuff. If the breed standard is whatever that is for show lines, this is going to be completely ignorant from my point of view. How can that differ because surely the breeds, if you've got a working dog breeding a working dog, the breed standard should be the same for your working dog as it is for breed.
Yes, well, on paper, yes, but we all know it's probably not. If we look at dogs in show rings as opposed to the poodles, they're not too far in between, because the poodles that you do see,
I was just gonna say that. Is there a difference?
I would not say so much in the poodles. No, they
Right.
are. I'd say it's more in terms of temperament wise with the
What
poodles.
you're looking for as well.
Yeah, in as opposed to their conformation and things like that. Because as I say,
And I think you're right. You can tell at that young age. I know when I picked Kippy, so there were 3 dogs. I knew I wanted a boy dog. There was, so we took the bitches out of the way, and they were on a farm so they had been bred with a full foxhound terrier. Sorry, no, it wasn't a foxhound terrier. It was a Jack Russell terrier, but she had very, very long legs, because I thought she was a foxhound, but she wasn't. So she was Jack Russell. She was bred on a farm. They had meat thrown into them, and I watched them literally. You know, it's like I can like feel my viewers like shuddering, like, oh my god, Emma went down a farm and this lump of meat was just thrown in, and their attitudes came out and their athleticism at that rate. So there was one that she'd called Fat Frank that used to guard the meat in the middle. He literally, and he was fat, stocky, short legs, and just really grumpy. There was another one that she called Bob, and Fat Frank had actually bitten the tail of Bob off. So, you know, because what happened was these dogs, they were let out onto the farm, that the stable door was opened, and they used to pull each other up on the hay bales, and you know, it wasn't necessarily a fight that he'd lost it, but it had it pulled off. And then there was Kippy, and Kippy was like stealth. He would be like running in while the other 2 were like, I want this meat, and he was living on like little dribs and drabs and everything else, and you could see the athleticism in them at that age. So I mean, I guess that's a mixed breed, so you know, but I guess you must see the same thing with poodles.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I be a little bit controversial though?
Yeah.
Would that alter, and I don't know the answer to this, generally sort of kind of 5-6 generations down the line, would that alter breed standard?
Well, there's that study, isn't there, with the foxes? Have you heard of that one?
No.
I don't know it in depth, but I know roughly what happened. But there was a fur farm, and they took they had foxes that they used for fur. I think they were some kind of silver fox that they used for fur, and they wanted to breed them so they were friendly, and they were taking the more friendly dogs out of and breeding those together. And so many generations down the line, these foxes had gone from prick ears to they had more droopy ears, and
yeah
sets had changed, and they had a more like an appeasing look to them,
right.
Obviously, yeah, so that had changed.
Yeah, so I guess that I was actually at my when I told my story, it was actually a Parsons Terrier that I thought it was, because it belonged to. Yeah, I'm like, what are you talking about, Emma?
That's quite interesting from, like you say, from let's say attitudes when they're puppies, or when you're breeding. So choosing 2 dogs to put together. So obviously we want to choose the best temperament for our dogs, obviously, but that doesn't always sort of marry up with our idea for what sport we're going to do, what drive we need. So sometimes having the best temperament may not be what you need or what you want for the job that they're about to do, or not necessarily in poodles, but in general.
Yeah.
So
how do you find best?
So how do you find that sort of edge? Because there's got to be a line where you go, right, I need something that's got to have attitude and drive, etc., for, let's say, agility or flyball or whatever that is. But I also want the dog that's got to be happy at home, relaxed, switched off, whatever. So there's got to be a line when you're choosing, I suppose, when you're breeding, you've got to choose the sire and the bitch, whatever. How do you have a look at both of those sides, like attitude towards work and
I was lucky enough to know Dad very well, so I knew pretty much what attitude I was going to get by mixing the 2 of them together.
Yeah,
right.
So I suppose you're always going to have one anomaly now and again.
Absolutely, yeah. You can have 5
Every
of mine,
family's got one.
Yeah.
they're all completely different in their own unique ways. I follow the puppy culture protocol as well, which obviously puts them through series of not so much tests, but we grow them in like a socialization way, and we see a lot of things that way. So we do barrier tests where we see the tenacity of them and their problem solving skills and things like that. And just
so interesting.
that you can kind of see which one's going to suit what you want them to do, and that's how I also place them in the homes that they have. So somebody doesn't come to me and say, I want a red puppy with a white spot here, I like the look of that one might be suited with somebody who wants a lap dog. They may be better suited as a pet dog. If you're coming to me and you're saying I want a dog to go off and do agility, I will, out of what I have, say to you which one I personally think is more suitable for that job. And that's how.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all.
Good,
I think it is really good as well. And I think that falls under ethical. I think we could probably talk, you know, all day, but I think, you know, Stuart and I really wanted, we used the word ethical, didn't we? We were talking gun dogs, and we were like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have an ethical breeder on and chat breed standards and everything. But between us, what would we class as ethical? What is ethical?
I think for me, ethical has got to have an understanding of the breed that you're breeding.
Yeah.
Like, with lots of research and history and experience, I suppose, with whatever breed it is you're breeding for. And then you have to have, I suppose, an understanding again of the health issues or the health benefits,
Health is the big one, isn't it?
Health, whichever way. And then I think, you, like you say, we touched on a little bit earlier, it's not necessarily about the money, but I think you've got to have some sort of line that you would draw to where you're going to go with the breed. So what line, say line, because I keep saying line, but there's got to be a line somewhere where you go, right, I'm breeding to get the best dog or the best lines that I can from this breed, if that makes sense. So I think the most thing for me is got to have loads of understanding about what the dog does, where it comes from, you know, why should you continue with that line.
Because I think it's okay for people to make money.
I think it's okay, of course it is.
And I think that doesn't, if someone's making money, it doesn't make them unethical, as long as that's not, I guess, a detriment to either the breed specific line or to
the dog itself,
to the genetics of it all, isn't it?
And also to the breeding pair as well. There's got to be something where, like a control. So like we said earlier about how many times you would breed certain bitches over a certain amount of, let's say, a lifetime. Not that I know many, but there's got to be some out there that would just like be breeding regardless. Whereas others would go, right, I'm only having 2 litters. You know, the dog's going to survive for 15 years or whatever, but they're only having 2 litters. Whereas some would go, right, we're having one every year for the next 10 years. But that's also, you know, I think there's a line there somewhere.
And it's where that line is, isn't it? Because you've also got the you know, test tube stuff going on and everything else, and that's not necessarily unethical, because so much research it can be done on genetics and things like that. You know, and I know we're kind of like treading on the risk of like upsetting people and not upsetting people, but you know, does it make it unethical just because it's staged?
I don't know. Where would you go on that, Joe? Would you, so from a breeder, would you, let's say, import test tubes from somewhere else just to get you know, if you researched everything and got it right, would you do that for one of your bitches instead of having the stud dog there with you? Would you do it that way?
That's not something I've ever had to consider with the breed that I have. We have a gene pool. We don't really have to do that. If you were to say, look at your breeds such as your Cavaliers and your Bulldogs, where the gene pool is that small, that if we carry on breeding the same dogs together that we have, it's a massive detriment to the breed.
Exactly that.
And definitely I'd look at bringing foreign blood in, as we say. And But
Yeah,
It's hard. It is a delicate subject, isn't it?
It is, yeah, absolutely.
And
Like
you,
yeah, I mean, we could go on for I think we could go on for forever and ever, but it was good just to have that sort of an insight from a breeder as well, that where things are, where things go, and that sort of bits and pieces. So yeah, I mean, I'm thank you very much for joining us, Joe. I think we'll wrap it up.
yeah,
on that one.
yeah.
But thank you very much
if
for
anyone
joining
else
us.
wants to join in on the subject and carry on.
So obviously when we put this, we'll put this out on our Facebook page and on Spotify and all the bits and pieces. So we always welcome comments and chats and stuff. So I'm not sure whether I think you're in our Facebook page anyway, Joe. So we'll put it on there. So if you're happy and people ask questions, if you want to jump in at any point, that makes it easier for everybody else to have a bit of a discussion about it. Because it is a massive subject, I think.
It is huge, and even as we're talking, I'm like, wow, we could have somebody that talks about this. We could have somebody that talks about that. Dogs that are bred for specific things outside of agility.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Right, we'll leave it there, I think. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Joe. It's been lovely talking to you.
We'll see you all again soon.
See you later. Bye, everybody.